Hello and welcome back to the Birdcage. I'm Jack Kenna alongside Alex King, and we will be breaking down the Creighton Seton Hall game and then previewing the Xavier game later. Let's talk about this Seton Hall game first. The Creighton Blue Jays annual pink out game. The Blue Jays get a 79-54 win in that pink out game. I tried to stop saying as much. I think I've done a decent job, but I said it there on accident. Alex, you did not go to the game. I know you watched it. What were your first thoughts, your first reaction after the Seton Hall game?
Well, the start to the game was pretty disgusting basketball. I think we were only up by like three or four at halftime. But do you remember how much were we down at half? Or we were up,
We
we were
we
up,
were up four because Ashworth hit a running floater,
yeah. And
but
then,
we were down eight at one point in the first half.
yeah, and it was disgusting because I think Seton Hall is really bad. And
Yeah.
it was just bad basketball. Low-key Seton Hall plays kind of like St. John's. Like they're really aggressive and
Hmm.
they like are very physical. So
Yeah.
I thought maybe that was working. And then the second half, we just turned it on and it was kind of awesome. And we got production off the bench. Fedor played good. Isaac Trout's been playing amazing.
Mhm.
So, I mean, yeah, I don't have much to complain about.
Yeah, it was overall a good game. Mac said it in the post game. Seton Hall was without their best player, Isaiah Coleman, who decided or who they kind of figured out right before tip off that he wasn't going to play. And let's be frank, the Seton Hall team's not very talented. This going into the game should have been a 20-point win, and it was, thank God, even though the beginning of that game was a little interesting. They just didn't play very well. They didn't shoot the ball very well. I think they were one of nine from three at one point to start the game. But you touched on it. A great game from Isaac Trout. Jason Green did a lot of good things. Mason Miller is not scoring the ball very well, but his plus minus would indicate that he's doing something right.
The plus minus merchant over
He's a
there.
plus minus merchant. Kalkbrenner, Ashworth both having good games, combining for 40.
Jemiah Neal finally with a quiet game.
Yeah, he's had a
But
few big games in a row though. Did he score at all?
he had three. He only shot it five times. So,
I I
kind
watched two missed threes, I think, from Neil.
of, yeah.
And then I can't really tell you a whole bunch else. I'm not really looking at the scouting report. But defensively, I said this was going to be a game where Seton Hall shoots below 40%. That wasn't the case. They did shoot 42, but they only had 23 made field goal attempts. Creighton had okay, I don't even know what to say because on paper it's not even that crazy. Creighton just outplayed them pretty much. Seton Hall just was not the better team in that second half, and that was pretty apparent. Once Creighton went into the break up four, I felt really confident that they were going to walk away pretty comfortably because Greg McDermott went into the locker room and wasn't necessarily the most pleased with the kind of effort and shot making ability that he saw in the first half.
Yeah, I think we just gotta stop turning the ball over. I don't remember a game this year where we didn't out turnover the opponent. Like we beat them by 25, but we still had one more turnover than them. So
I don't
that's
get how we consistently do that.
yeah,
What I
that's a
would
problem.
say is a lot of it probably just has to do with the pace we want to play at, which is good because I want to push the ball up the floor, but also we have to do it under control. What scares me is Seton Hall had nine steals, and against good teams like a St. John's or a Marquette or even a Xavier or a UConn, if you're if you give them the ball nine extra times, not even by turnovers, but just like them stealing the ball. It's a little
Yeah.
scary they can get in transition
Well,
and
they
make.
convert half of those. That's like 10 points right there
Yeah.
for the swing.
But overall, it was kind of the game I expected to see from Creighton. Pink Out is always one of my more favorite games of the season. I really enjoy the jerseys. I love what the game stands for. And I thought that Creighton showed that they are a much improved team from a month ago.
I
I
agree.
remember. in November, late November, we're sitting here in the exact same spot we were talking about what the hell is this season come to? How can they get back on track? And they've done a pretty good job of that.
Well, I think we pretty much wrote him off. Not necessarily wrote him off, but after Pop was hurt and after we lost to Georgetown, I think we were pretty low. And since then,
Yeah.
we've lost one game. We beat UConn at UConn. We beat St. John's at home. I mean, it's looking up, and I think it would be hard for
Yeah.
this team to miss the tournament now. Knock on wood. But as long as we win what we're supposed to win, maybe get a win on the road, I think we could get a decentish seed, which I was not expecting.
Yeah. This team is interesting, and I think it just shows how great of a coach McDermott really is. Because if you think about it, without your starting point guard, I don't know if you want to call Ashworth a one or a two, without your one of your starting guards, in a year where you're very concerned and you just have no idea about Fedor, really, it's a pretty impressive coaching display and a coaching season from Greg McDermott. What I am happy about is the Blue Jays figured something out. Something's clicking. They've won seven of their last eight. And let's be real, in that Marquette game, I know we don't like to do moral victories, but you
Should have
played
won.
good enough to have a chance to win that game. Ashworth went 1 of 13, and Kolkbrenner couldn't make a damn layup. So you played good enough to even win the Marquette game. I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far from Creighton because unlike most Creighton teams, these games can kind of scare you when you're like, well, we should win this game, but who really knows, really? I think this team's done a pretty good job of going out there and dominating from the start.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to say that after we lost to Georgetown, but I mean, since then, we kind of played a close game with Butler, but other than that, it's kind of
Yeah, but
been,
that's at Hinkle and that's at 11.
yeah.
The Georgetown game, I really have no explanation for. That
I
was nobody showed up for that
I
one.
almost want to go back and watch the highlights of that because it just feels like a different team since then. But then again, I'm definitely not doing that because I don't want to watch us lose to Georgetown again. But yeah, we feel a lot better, and we're competing for the Big East now. We're only one game back, and we're gonna still get a chance to play St. John's and Marquette and UConn, and so I
Yeah,
think it's looking good.
definitely we're in the race, which is something you want to be able to say on January 27th, is that you're in the race. What I will say is the home game against Marquette and the home game at UConn, uber important.
Yeah,
And the road game at St. John's, even though I think most Creighton fans aren't expecting a win there, just because it's a tough place to play, and St. John's is really, really good.
you never win at
You
St.
could,
John's.
if you could sneak out something there, or even at Villanova, I think, like you said, we're looking pretty good come tournament time. I see the Nebraska flag in the background. You want to touch on the Huskers? They're on a 7 game losing
The
streak right
Huskers,
now.
the Huskers suck, and I will say this is a Nebraska football flag.
Nebraska
I
football
I
flag.
still I still like my Huskers basketball, but I don't really care. So this is football. But
A
yeah,
Nebraska football
the
flag.
Huskers the
Yeah.
Huskers are ass. They lost like seven in a row now.
I
I know
I
you're
never
pretty
thought
happy
I
about
didn't think that Nebraska basketball team was really talented coming into the year. I think they're good. They're a good team. But I think just the way that they play and the style of defense that they play, if you hit shots, you will beat
it.
them most of the time. And the teams are starting to hit shots now. Earlier in the year when they were getting their win at UC, like when they beat UCLA at home, which was not really a top 25 team, let's be real. When they beat Creighton, who else? What was another big Nebraska basketball win? They have another
Uh,
in there. A
the
pretty
Indiana,
decent.
Indiana at home.
Indiana at home. Those teams just shot poorly.
Yeah,
And if you shoot decent against Nebraska, they just don't have a ton of scores. I like Connor Essegian though.
the season's good.
Like
Well, Bryce Williams is really good, but
Bryce Williams is so good. He needs to take more shots though. I don't know why he's not. I think he's too passive.
yeah, I agree.
But that's neither here nor there. This is not a Nebraska episode. Overall, let's go over player rankings for the Seton Hall game real quick, and then we'll jump into the Xavier game. What do you think about Ashworth? I thought he had a little bit, he had a great first half. I think he had 4 or 5 3-pointers in that first half. I think four.
When Ashford's shooting threes when like he can, I mean, he's one of the best players in the Big East.
Yeah.
I love the way he's been playing. He turns the ball over too much, but honestly, I'll take it if he's making 5 threes. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can't complain. And he plays like a lot. Like if this was a close game, he would have played all 40 minutes, and he runs around the whole time. So I don't know
Yeah.
how his old ass legs can still handle that, but
Neither do
he's
I.
good.
It's impressive. I think A+ from Stephen Ashworth. He turns maybe A-. He does turn the ball over quite a bit. How about Ryan Kolkbrenner?
Yeah, I mean, he went 9 for 10, and his only missed shot was a three that he probably shouldn't be shooting. So this was a vintage performance, like one where he actually made his layups, and he had 8 rebounds, 9 rebounds, sorry. So I mean, 3 blocks. He might win Defensive Player of the Year again, which is just absurd. He should probably win it, but they might not want to give it to him again.
They might have voter fatigue and give it to Stevie Mitchell,
Yeah,
which I
but
would understand, even though I do believe that Kolkbrenner is the most impactful defender in the Big
well,
East.
all the coaches say like they have to completely change their game plan because of him, and it's because he's just plays defense perfectly. So
Can
yeah,
you imagine when we don't have Ryan Kolkbrenner next year?
it's
I know
gonna
we've
be.
touched on this a few times. Our future right now is Fred King.
We love you, Fred King,
We love
but
you, Fred King.
I don't know
He's
if you
no
can.
Ryan Kalkbrenner, though. I think he would admit that he's not a Ryan Kalkbrenner. What about Jemiah Neal? He didn't do a whole bunch. He didn't need to, thankfully.
Yeah,
Only 1 for 5. He had 1 rebound, 1 assist. I'm gonna rate this performance like a C.
yeah, I don't want to be too hard on him just because he's been amazing, but we didn't
Yeah.
really need him to do that much.
Yeah.
So I guess I won't complain.
We'll go Jason Green next. I feel like Jason Green had a few good moments.
He actually made a three, which I didn't expect. So that
A
was
good
exciting.
three, like a rhythm three too.
Yeah, in the
And it
corner.
didn't look ugly.
Yeah,
That's good.
that was beautiful.
It's improvement from Jason Green. I
Who
think he had a
else?
really good game. I really like his the way that he has grown from even the start of the year defensively.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable having Jason Green on the floor. I think sometimes his limitations on the offensive end make him a little bit streaky and a little bit unplayable even at some points, but he's had a great year. I'd
yeah,
say he gets a B.
I agree.
Again, the hard part about this is you can't really like this game's not a clear indicator because I don't necessarily think Seton Hall's that great. How about Jackson McAndrew? 5 points for Jackson, 2 of 7 from the field though.
He's kind of been struggling.
Yeah.
It's really good that Trout stepped up because McAndrews honestly had a rough few games. So I don't really know what's going on there because he was automatic for a couple of games, like against Alabama, and then a couple after that, he would make all his threes, and now he's kind of struggling.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just part of being a freshman. And it's good that Trout and Fedor are kind of getting a little more comfortable because we're going to need them to. And I think at some point there is going to be a transition of Fedor into the starting lineup. I think it's a matter of when, not if, hopefully. But also, this lineup's been so good together.
I almost don't know if they do put Fedor in the lineup because if you look at the minutes, I mean, Trout and Fedor both played more than McAndrew and almost as much as Jason Green. So I think honestly, you can just keep doing that. I
I'm
think
comfortable doing that too.
it's hard to start Fedor now because this lineup has done so well.
Yeah, this lineup is done terrific. How
Yeah.
about our boy Isaac Trout? He had another great game. He has had a string of really good games.
Yeah, through the last 4 home games I saw, he's has one missed three, and he's made like three every game.
Yeah,
So it's awesome.
it's nice to see he's really starting to get into a rhythm, which is nice because this Creighton team desperately needed people to consistently knock down shots, and he's doing that. I think Isaac Trout's deserving of an A.
Yeah. Oh, for
I,
sure.
I don't ne I don't know if he'll ever get the A+ because I don't think Creighton's really gonna look towards him to do everything like
Hmm.
anything on a specific night. But if he can just do his job, that's all they're asking him to do, and he's doing it perfectly. How
Yeah.
about Fedor?
Yeah, I'm really glad he got to play a little bit and he made some shots. He's got a bright upside. And
Mhm.
if we can keep working him in, and if he can stick around, and I'm very excited because he does pro moves and he does things that on defense where it's not very good, but his pro moves are pretty exciting.
I'm really what I love about this team is or this team is still fighting without Pop Isaacs. But now it has me wonder what would this team be if Pop Isaacs was eligible? Because I think this team could be pretty darn good.
I agree.
I think this team is darn good, but I think Pop Isaacs would only make that team better, which is my opinion.
Well, when we were at our
Um,
best, just look against Kansas, we played so good and beat them by like it was never really in question.
mm-mm.
Um, so I mean the the ceiling was pretty high, and I think it's still pretty high.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have any other final thoughts? We're going to skip over Mason Miller and the rest of the gang because necessarily they didn't play as much. I don't really want to go critique them. Do you have any final thoughts about the Seton Hall game?
Nothing to say. I'm glad we got it done, and it was stress free. Well, after the second half, it was stress
Yeah.
free.
Yeah, I agree.